In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. I will start tonight's show off with a Black History reflection of Betty Shabazz. Before we begin tonight's conversation, we pause to honor a woman whose life embodied resilience, dignity, and the unbreakable spirit of Black womanhood, Dr. Betty Shabazz. Born Betty Dean Sanders, she rose from humble beginnings to become a nurse, educator, humanitarian, and one of the most influential figures in modern Black history. As the wife of Malcolm X, she endured unimaginable loss, yet she transformed her pain into purpose. Dr. Shabazz earned her doctorate, became a professor, and dedicated her life to empowering young people, especially Black women, through education and advocacy. Her legacy reminds us that leadership is not only found in public speeches or political movements, it is found in the quiet, consistent work of building community, nurturing minds, and standing firm in truth. Dr. Betty Shabazz has taught us that healing is a form of resistance and education is a pathway to liberation. So to introduce our guest for tonight, there are people who follow a career path, and then there are those who follow a calling. Tonight on American Black and White, we sit with a man whose life reflects discipline, intellect, service, and a deep commitment to uplifting communities through education, leadership, and policy. From Hempstead, New York, to the halls of Wilberforce University, from the boardrooms of the financial institutions to the classrooms of New York's universities, Jamel V. Vanderburg has built a career rooted in purpose. His journey is one of academic excellence, entrepreneurial vision, and a relentless belief that communities of color deserve equitable access to opportunity, resources, and representation. Whether he is teaching first-year college students, mentoring young professionals, auditing government systems, or helping entrepreneurs structure their dreams into reality, Jamel brings clarity, compassion, and a strategic mind shaped by lived experience. And now, as a PhD scholar studying leadership, public policy, and climate vulnerability in minority communities, he stands at the intersection of knowledge and justice, determined to create solutions that protect, empower, and transform. Tonight, we explore the man behind the mission, the scholar behind the research, and the leader behind the legacy he is building. This is America in Black and White, and this is the story of Jamel B. Vanderburg. Hello, sir.
Good evening. How are you from very rainy New York?
Well, look, we're about to get some of that here in Atlanta because it's overcast right now.
Gotcha.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
Well, let me say good evening. Thank you for inviting me on this platform. I am looking forward to a great conversation, great dialogue, and let's dig in. Let's have some fun.
Oh, let me see. Well, it looked like we got some comments here early. This one is here's a young person here saying hello, story time. So with all of these, you're able to, if you like to, you can answer back to these questions. And here's another one says, oh, this is from your brother. It says, big up my brother, Jamel.
Oh, Chad. What's going on, Chad? Hope you're enjoying sunny Florida, my friend.
So what we're gonna start with is I like to have our audience get to know a little bit more about the guest as we get into the show, and so I'd like to start first by asking you, um, what was life like growing up in Hempstead, and how did your community shape your identity?
Well, I really never left Hempstead except for the 4 years that I attended Wilberforce University. I was coming home back and forth and back and forth. But I grew up not far from where I currently live now.
Hmm.
I am one of 7 kids.
Oh wow.
My parents lived in Hempstead before they moved in 2006. And my parents set the foundation for what community looks like in terms of being involved with the PTA, being involved with a lot of the activities that my siblings and I were involved in, whether it was the band, whether it was honor societies, all of those different things throughout school. One of my first exposures to public service came when I was a teenager. And a member of my church, her name is now Deputy Supervisor of the town of Hempstead, Dorothy L. Gooseby, ran for town council and won back in 1999 2000. She put out a lawsuit saying that there was not representation of African Americans in the town of Hempstead.
Oh
She
wow.
went to the courts, she won the case, and was the first African American on town council and the first Democrat in almost 100 years to have sat in that particular seat.
Oh
And
wow.
I was able to intern under her at 12, 13 years old. So I was exposed to the political process from a local level and seeing how important local politics is. Because society programs us to believe that the only elections and the only time we need to be worried about what's happening in government is the federal elections. Everything starts locally, from the water you drink, which I'm drinking some water now, from the school, from your schools, how much money you get from the schools with the school board elections, to your infrastructure. I'm looking outside my window now. They've got different projects, they're doing a lot of pavement, they're getting rid of the potholes. All of that does not just happen, that does not happen at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. All of
Exactly.
that starts right around the corner from where you live. And I was able to, at a very young age, be exposed to what politics looks like. I was able to be in the room with local, state, and federal elected officials before I turned 18.
Oh
And it
wow.
invoked my ability and it invoked my passion on civic engagement, making sure that people are not only registered to vote, but they are also educated in what they're voting for. And I took that with me to the cornfields of Ohio, where I, along with several esteemed classmates of mine, we organized a lot of political efforts on campus to get our classmates registered to vote. And specifically in the 2008 election, we got 100%. Let me repeat that again. We got 100% of all of the students at Wilberforce University to go out and vote in the 2008 election.
Oh, wow.
But that also trickled down to what we focused on the presidential election because that was the big. But we also made sure we focused on what was happening locally in the community. And even though you're looking at things, I went to school in a very rural area. I mean, I tipped over cows for fun while I was in Ohio. But you compare those politics to what's happening in urban societies, there's not too much difference to a certain extent, except for the fields and except maybe more greenland.
Mhm.
And I hope that answered your first question, my friend.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Who were your early mentors who helped guide your path?
Well, my parents were definitely and still are my mentors to this day. And if my dad is watching, happy Father's Day. I had an opportunity to spend Father's Day with him over the weekend. Deputy Supervisor Gooseby, who I've known, she was my Sunday school teacher. And that's been a relationship that's gone on for more than 25 years. Mayor James Garner, the first Black mayor in the village of Hempstead, and he was the former president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. He's been a mentor of mine. And there's been a community that has poured into me, from teachers to different elected officials to different influences in the community, elementary, middle, high school, and college. And the church, I have been fortunate to have a community around me that has helped mold me into the person that I am today. And I have a responsibility to make sure that in some way, shape, or form, I am able to give back so that I can reach one and teach one so that somebody else is able to go out and reach one and teach one as well.
So, when did you first realize you had a gift for numbers and analysis?
I was 12 years old and I was trying to figure out how to make a dollar. And I had a classmate who was having difficulty in math. I was good in math. I started tutoring.
Oh, wow.
So that kicked off my entrepreneurial endeavor. That started kicking off entrepreneurship. I'm like, okay, I kind of like making money doing something that I like.
Mhm.
And then I got my business interest picked up. If you go back to about 2002, 2003, there were two companies known as Enron and Arthur Andersen
Ooh.
that collapsed. And I was taking a business analysis class in high school. And the teacher I had, Ms. Schulman, is the reason I went into business in college. Because she showed us two movies, Wall Street and Boiler Room. And those both piqued my interest when it came to business, when it came to accounting. And also, we talked about the falls of Enron and Arthur Andersen. And I'm 15, 16 years old at the time. I didn't understand how two major companies, one of the big five accounting firms being Arthur Andersen, how they collapsed. but something about it just piqued my interest in trying to understand what business looks like and how businesses thrive and also how they fail. So I would say that sparked my interest in business. I took that with me to Wilberforce University, and I started a second business literally around a campfire where a couple classmates and I got an idea to help our peers start their own businesses. And my senior year, I was able to get a $10,000 grant from Russell Simmons, and I was able to fund different business projects for my classmates. So I was able to help my peers also become entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's interesting. So, with that, how did that come to be that you found out that Russell Simmons was even doing grants, and how did that manage to work in your favor?
You know, I will be very honest with you. You know this as an entrepreneur. You're always looking for different opportunities. And I mean, we're going back almost 20 years. I don't even remember how I saw the email about this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to myself, the worst thing they can tell me
No.
is no. And guess what? I had a business plan written.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter of tweaking. There were a couple questions they asked. You know, you make sure you cross the T's and dot the I's. And I will never forget that particular day because the day it was due, I asked a friend of mine to drop me off at the post office because they needed an actual physical copy of the business plan. So it wasn't one of those things you could just email and send out. No, they needed the physical copy. And then about a month later, I will never forget this. I was walking back to campus. It was raining that night. Came back to check my email to see that I was the recipient of the grant. And I was only one of 5 winners in the entire country who received this grant.
Oh wow! Do you think that that's surefire destiny? Because when opportunities like that persist, and just think about how you started, as a kid when you did the tutoring and so forth. Now you're in college and you're helping classmates start businesses and all these other things, and now you apply for this grant and you get this grant. Do you think that's destiny that's taking you higher?
First of all, it's all God ordained. There is nothing I have done that I did myself. This is nothing but God. And God will put opportunities in front of you. He will bring opportunities to you. And it is up to you to either shoot your shot for them or not shoot your shot for them. And my mantra has always been the worst thing that can happen is that they say no.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, that's a good way of looking at it because that's the only way. That's the only thing it can be, yes or no.
Exactly.
So, how did your family influence your work ethic and values?
Well, I I will say this. If you ask my parents today, I would say that they are very happy that all of their children are experiencing success. I mean, I have success but I'm not the only child that has success. I have a brother who is an elected official. He is the first Black supervisor of Palmer, Pennsylvania. I have a brother who has started a funeral home, his own business. I have a sister who just launched her daycare. So entrepreneurship does run in the family. Excellence does run in the family. But we make sure as best as we can to support each other as best as possible. And support doesn't always mean financial, but it could mean a word of encouragement, or it could mean a swift kick sometimes, like, yo, you got this. Let's make this thing happen. Or if I know somebody who might be able to help, that's being a resource in itself as well.
So, what role did faith play in your upbringing?
Listen, I laugh because the very church I grew up in, I'm now a trustee
Oh, look
at
at
that
you.
church.
Okay.
So my footprints, I make the joke all the time. My footprints are all over that church.
Yeah.
From the time I was 7, 8 years old to me now being years old, my parents have instilled in me a certain level of faith. My family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, we are a faith-filled family. And sometimes the only thing that keeps you going is having a certain level of faith. And I make sure every morning my 2 feet hit the ground after my eyes open, and I know something's got to shake today.
Right.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Something's gonna shake. Yes, sir. I like that. I like that because that right there also, I think that's like just forcing the action and making it happen, but also being about an actionable person. That is to go
Yes.
out and just make it come to fruition. A lot of people like
Yes.
to sit back. And so I mean, I think sitting back sometimes can be an issue, but I agree with you in that in that with that statement. What challenges did you face as a young Black man navigating academic spaces?
Okay. I wanna break down that question a little bit because I'd like to know if you're asking through my academic journey, or are you asking that question with me being in an academic capacity as a professor? Because
Both.
there's two different. Okay.
Both.
Okay. So let me start with the overall my academic journey as a scholar. I don't know if you can tell, but sometimes I do too much.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I have to make sure I learned at a very early age that I need to have very good time management.
Okay.
Because I will jack myself up if I don't have good time management. And being in a PhD program now, I got through undergrad, I did well, had a good study schedule, but that was the only thing I was doing. Yeah, I was doing other activities. Yes, I was, an entrepreneur and stuff, but it was mostly academics. I go to do my MPA. It's academics plus working. I was not only working full time, but I was also working for the program that funded my master's.
Okay.
So I was playing a double-edged sword because I'm a student, but I'm also doing that. So I kind of had like inside baseball information of the program. So of course, when you're in a cohort of people, if you know a lot of stuff, people are going to knock at your door.
Okay.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus tonight, but I will say that's something that was challenging for me in that capacity. Now that I am in my PhD program, the biggest challenge I had coming into the PhD program was losing 2/3 of my income right before the program started, having job insecurity, and also becoming a caretaker. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that not long into the program shut down?
Wow. Mm.
Oh, by the way, I'm still trying to have some kind of life. I also sit on 4 boards. So remember when I went back to that whole need to balance my life and need to figure stuff out?
Right.
That doesn't stop.
Mhm.
I still need to eat. I still need to take care of my health. I still need to do the jobs that I have. I still need to find time to do my reading, do my papers, grade papers, all of those different things. But that's where faith comes in. Because it is nothing but God that has kept me sane, especially these last 4 years, where not only have I been able to manage and juggle my personal life, those things outside, but I make sure that I'm locked in and all in when it comes to my academics. Because I always want to make sure that I put my best foot forward. As far as my biggest challenge, I can tell you academically in my PhD program, the biggest hurdle, I'm still dealing with this even now that I'm working on my dissertation, is not to make the same mistakes that I get on my students for doing.
Okay.
And it's very easy to do that and not realize that you're doing it. So I'm doing my best to become more conscious of making sure I follow certain parameters when I'm writing, but also give myself just a little bit of grace to know that I'm not a machine. I am human. That grace that I give myself, I can also extend with my students because all of my classes have been on this journey with me. And I'm like, I'm going to tell y'all the mistakes not to make so that you don't make them if you get to this level as well. So I know that's kind of roundabout. I hope that answered your question.
That's fine. So tell us, what does the phrase "education saved my life" mean to you?
Well, education saved my life. I would also add to that to say education grew my life. because education exposed me to different facets. Education also saved my life because I always want to learn at least one new thing every single day. And it doesn't have to be like the Fibonacci sequence or something like that. Even if it's something as simple as why horses like jump off their hooves or something like that. Something as simple as that. Or if you have sports or anything like that. Education not only saves lives, but it helps to build you and make you better. And it helps to grow you as well.
So, how did attending Wilberforce University transform your worldview?
Well, I am the only one of my siblings who left the tri state area to go to college. So the fact that I was 600 miles away, again, in the cornfields of Ohio, back at a time where there was no Uber, there was no public transportation, there was barely taxi service there. I'm literally in a place where I have to figure stuff out. And I have to take different opportunities. Not only did I learn a lot of things in the classroom, but my exposure at Wilberforce helped me. My 2 internships with the National Urban League and working for Kodak came from me being at Wilberforce. The friends that I made came from Wilberforce. Joining my fraternity happened at Wilberforce. Starting my business happened at Wilberforce. Me now also being the national treasurer, being on the board for the Alumni Association because of Wilberforce. So it really gave a culture of being family oriented, being education driven, and again, taking opportunities that come your way and making the most of them. And it was not smooth sailing. There was some failing along the way, but I didn't sulk in those failures. I always did my best to learn from the failures and keep moving forward.
Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about your work in higher education and teaching. What inspired you to become an adjunct professor?
The fear of God. Literally, I will tell this story because this story literally it literally changed my life. We go back to July 2016. At the top of the world, just finished my MPA, trying to figure stuff out. But guess what? I don't have a job. Start back my tutoring, start trying to figure things out, applying different jobs, this, that, and the other. Things are moving kind of slow. Then God knocks me right on my behind. I have a major health scare. I get sick. I'm in the hospital almost 2 weeks. Again, I'm not even 30. This health scare happens. I think it'll scare the bejesus out of anybody. Still trying to figure things out. I go home. I get home, recovering, still trying to figure out exactly what I am going to do. It's 3 days before Christmas. I see an advertisement for an adjunct position at New York Tech. What's the worst thing they can do? Say no.
Right.
So I applied to it. Now, it's 3 days before Christmas. I'm not expecting, if they are going to get back to me, I'm not expecting them to actually say anything until the beginning of the year. I applied 10 o'clock that night. The next morning, I got an email saying, come in and fill out the paperwork and see what classes you want to teach.
So how do you approach teaching first-year students who are still finding their footing?
Well, I have to remember how I was at 18 years old, number one. Number two, just in terms of that first ever class I taught, which was Foundations of Inquiry, which the class was centered around critical thinking.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
I have an accounting background. I just got my MPA. I had also just started a social media consultant position where I was creating social media for a nonprofit. I've done entrepreneur stuff. I've done board stuff. I'm like, this is the stuff that invokes critical thinking. It's not just sitting in a classroom and being major driven. You can literally take some of these life skills and you can apply it to any and everything. So stuff I learned as an entrepreneur, stuff I learned as an accountant, stuff I learned working for nonprofits, stuff that I learned the 6 years I worked in banking, stuff I worked being on boards, civic organizations, all of these different things I was able to take into the classroom to really take my students outside of the box of where they were coming into my classroom. And also having the understanding that what I was teaching today would prepare them for tomorrow, even if they didn't necessarily understand it in that moment. And they'd probably tell you I was crazy.
No, see, but that's actually my follow-up question is because like in today's high schools and just school in general, it's kind of like they're dumbing the kids down because a lot of them are not taught critical thinking. And so my question to you is, what was that experience like for both you and the students? Because I'm sure that there was a lot of, I'm not sure about this.
Listen, I told my students the very first day, y'all are guinea pigs. I'm trying to figure stuff out the same way you're trying to figure stuff out. I also had to remind myself that, yes, I'm teaching you all, but you all are teaching me too. The minute you stop wanting to learn as a professor is the day you die.
I believe that.
And I will say this, I'm going into my 10th year of teaching. And I have never, I've been teaching a lot of the same courses. I've never taught the same course the same way the whole semester. There's always something I've changed. If I've got a froggier than normal class, I teach a different way. If I have a more subdued class, I teach a different way. If I have a small class, I have to teach a different way. If I have a large class of 25, 30 students, I have to teach a different way. So there's a certain level of adaptability that I have to approach every single semester with. And I can honestly, with every course I have ever taught since January 23rd, 2017, across 2 universities, every first day of the new semester feels like the first day for me.
So, what is your philosophy on culturally responsive teaching?
My first belief is to create an inclusive environment. That's the first thing. Nobody's voice is bigger than anybody else's voice.
Mm-hmm.
We will agree, we will disagree, we will fight, we will argue, we will have a difference of opinion. However, you will respect, everybody who sits in this classroom. From myself all the way down to the peer you don't necessarily agree with.
How do you help students connect academic theory to real world issues?
Okay. I'm thinking about that question a little bit because I do try to apply real world in almost every class. I had a chance to teach a course. I created a course a couple years ago on running for public office. And I basically split the class into different political parties. So they had to create their own political platforms. They had to create their own political campaigns. They had to choose somebody from their group who was actually going to run for office. And they actually did, they actually campaigned. They went on campus campaigning throughout the semester. We had debates. They set up their platforms. So that's really that's really taking academic theory, the things you learn, the things you see on TV or the things you don't see on TV, and really putting it to this is what it's really like. I walked into a class. I will never ever forget. I listen, the stories I've had over the last 10 years, you don't forget them. I told my class this particular semester, you all have to rally your peers, meaning they may not necessarily know that you're taking this class, but the very platform that you're going to present for the midterm, you need to get people on this campus to care about it. My students, I walked in the class, my students looked at me, they said, Professor Vanderburg, we can't get people to care. I said, figure it out. They're like, you don't understand. We can't get people to be interested in what we're doing. I said, I don't care. Figure it out. They're like, you're not hearing. They're like, you're not hearing what we're saying. I said, I hear exactly what you're saying because that's exactly what is wrong with our country today. This is literally parallelism of what is happening in our political climate. So if the US government can't figure it out, I understand you all may not have all the answers that the people getting paid $175,000 a year in the Congress and the Senate can figure out. But you all can find ways, you all can leverage, you all can come up with different strategies. Because for 16 weeks, or it wasn't 16 weeks at the time, but every week I came to class, you talked about how many elected officials were too old to be in office. This is your opportunity to change the spectrum on a smaller scale. And my students that semester went viral because we got the social media department to follow them around while they were doing their campaigning across the campus.
So, what is the most rewarding part of teaching at NYIT and St. John's?
Well, I'm no longer at NYIT, but the time I was there, the 8 years I was there, I taught more than a half dozen classes, ranging from the critical thinking. I taught political science, I taught history, I taught how to run for public office, I taught data science. Basically, even with that in St. John's, I'm an amplified version in the classroom of who I am in real life.
Okay. And
And
how is that?
because I take my experiences that I've had outside the classroom and I bring them into the classroom with me.
Okay. Oh, that's great experience.
And I have real experience. I didn't go, I know there are professors who have gone to school 7, 10 years straight and go right into higher education. But I've had some pit stops along the way. I've had some different jobs. I've had some different experiences along the way. So I'm not your traditional academic. I am not a person who just goes in one trajectory. My trajectory is anything but a straight line. There have
Okay.
been zigzags, there have been curves, there have been pivots. All of those things I take into the classroom as learning lessons and real world experience. Whether I'm dealing with accountants, whether I'm dealing with future doctors, whether I'm dealing with future elected officials, whether I'm dealing with future psychologists or engineers.
Okay.
The experiences that I have had can be translated no matter what your major is, no matter your concentration, or no matter what your academic standing.
So, what challenges do today's college students face that previous generations didn't?
They don't know how to think.
That's
You know, schools are getting rid of critical thinking. Schools are getting rid of history. Schools are getting rid of political science. Schools are teaching students how to be robots.
Yep, and that's something I don't think a lot of people are really ready to subject themselves to, because once you become robotic, that means that you really become inhuman. And so, as you're actually teaching your students, what concepts are you teaching them to keep them, or to, shall I say, to help them to understand the difference in being a real person and being robotic?
I will say that the first thing I really touch on is when you're in my class, you need to talk. You need to be froggy. I will call you out every day and twice on Sunday. I have no problem putting your feet to the fire at all. I think one of the things that also needs to happen is they need to realize that they have a voice. It matters. I'm not just thinking about the fact that you're paying for my class, but you need to also understand that, yes, I say this as a math nerd. Y equals mx plus b is very helpful, but y equals mx plus b doesn't help you necessarily pay your taxes when you're dealing with a community that needs to know where their tax dollars are and are not going. Just an example.
No, you know, that's an interesting thing that you just mentioned, and I do want to ask you this because as you bring that up, I'm just wondering how many people, families think of this. Like when you mention about their tax dollars and their dollars that they're contributing, how are you able to teach that, and what are you learning from your students when teaching this?
Story time once again. I mean, I'm going back a couple years ago. I was teaching critical thinking, and that semester I was also teaching my first political science class. It was the fall. Now, Charles, what specific thing happens during the fall semester at some point?
Look, maybe the time change is getting cold.
But what else happens in the fall?
Oh, that's the end of year.
No. What specifically happens during the fall semester?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Election day.
Oh, election. Okay.
So I was drilling my students to go out and vote, both my freshmen and my juniors and seniors who I had in this political science class. I walked into my critical thinking class. It's 9 o'clock in the morning with my cup of coffee. And first question I asked, after I asked how was everybody doing, but whoop-de-woo. I know that you all went out to vote yesterday. And one of the students who I almost hit on the way coming into campus because he was on a skateboard gets up and says, well, Professor Vanderburg, I didn't take the time to vote because voting is a waste of time. I'm not going to repeat the expletives that may or may not have come out of my mouth during that time. But that conversation became tax time. Why? Because not too long before Election Day, in Queens, about 15, 20 minutes from where I live now, I'm in the outskirts of the city. I'm on Long Island, but about 15, 20 minutes away from where I am right now. There's a park in Queens that opened up a skateboard rink. And it had been passed by the city council, I think it was about a week or two before, because it was right before election day and it was right before the turn of the cycle of the city council. And I said to them, do you not understand that voting influences things that impact your life? Just like that skateboard that you walked into my class with, that I almost hit you with because you were going and you decided not to look at me driving down the street. That because of tax dollars and because of voting and because there was influence among elected officials, that park in Queens got a skateboard rink. But other parks, not only in Queens, but across the boroughs, also made it skateboard friendly. That's an example of tax dollars at work. That stuff ain't cheap.
Right.
It has to be voted upon. There has to be a certain level of outreach.
And so, but with that though, I mean, are they understanding the importance of the tax dollars? Because I think if most understand the importance of tax dollars, then they would understand the importance of what happens in their communities. Because a lot of times, especially in a lot of the underserved communities, the dollars that the people earn are not stored there. They're taken and they're
No,
actually
they're
taken.
moved to other places, and
Yeah.
it's really a case by case basis. And I say that because, just to give you some background on NYIT. So that particular semester, well, NYIT has two campuses.
Mhm.
There's one on Long Island, not close. Well, it's close to where I live. It's about 15 minutes from where I live now. There's also a campus located in the heart of Columbus Circle.
Okay.
So that semester, I was teaching on both campuses. So I was back and forth between Long Island and Manhattan. It literally was the tale of two different campuses, two different cultures, two different environments. You know, the Manhattan campus had most people coming from the boroughs. Long Island campus had most people coming from Nassau and Suffolk County. And yes, you did have an influx of students who came from the boroughs because there was some like cross classes and different things of that nature. But the culture looked very different. And going back to your question about the tax dollars, the tax conversation I had hit students on the eastern parts of Suffolk County hit different from people who are in the eastern part of New York City.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Two different conversations, two different outcomes, but my message to be involved and be engaged still looked, and I made sure it resonated the same.
So let's talk a little bit about the business that you have, Mella Business Consultants Incorporated. What inspired you to co-found Mella Business Consultants while still in college?
That idea literally came around a campfire during a student retreat. And I had an idea about wanting to be an entrepreneur. I had an idea about really wanting to jumpstart not only helping people, but I was also in the business of making money. So yes, I'm learning all of these different things, but how can I put what I'm learning to practice? How can I make this thing work? And yes, there were certain elements where it was baptism by fire, but it was also like, okay, I'm learning some of this stuff. Let me try to put it into practice. Let me find some people who are like-minded like me. Not only who want to make money, but also want to do good. How can we shake some things up? And shake some things up we did over the course of our respective college careers.
What is the biggest misconception young entrepreneurs have about starting a business?
The biggest misconception. I am probably going to get beat up in the comments for saying this. And I want to preference it by saying this is industry specific. So this is not a one size fits all answer. But there is a misconception, depending on what industry you're in, that you need money, a lot of money, to start a business. Now you understand why I had to give that disclaimer, because also product-based businesses are different than service-based businesses. Yes, you do still have some level of your product looks different. You might have different software, different things of that nature, but it's not the same as like dishing out a phone or dishing out books or things of that nature. It looks very different. So I want to be very careful with saying that. The mantra I believe every entrepreneur to have is, if you're dishing out $20, how are you going to make 40? How are you going to recoup your 20 and then get another 20 and just try to build upon that? Because that's one of the successful tenets of business. The money you put out, you need to be figuring out a way to double that to bring that money back. And funny enough, I was having that conversation with my sister a couple weeks ago. As I mentioned to you, she just opened up her own daycare. And one of the things that I said to her was, one, how many clients do you need to break even? Because everything after break even is pure gravy.
Yes.
But whatever your expenses are, if your expenses are $5,000 a month, and I'm just making numbers up, these aren't actual numbers. But if your numbers are $5,000 a month, what's it going to take to get you to 10? And then how do you continue growing from that?
So, as with your consulting business, in said situations like this, what services do you guys offer your clients, and how do you actually help them to stay on the black side of the ledger?
Well, we've offered different accounting skills, making sure that their books are in order, understanding what their needs are in terms of what are they dishing out. Are they a product-based business versus a service-based business? Because of course the way we tackle their accounting needs looks very different on that level. The other piece is understanding what their niche is and making sure that what they're talking about internally matches what they're putting out externally. Because a lot of times businesses will give a certain message internally, but not follow it externally, and vice versa. So we make sure that whatever you're putting on paper is what you're actually putting out to your clientele to the best of your ability. And also making sure that you're meeting the needs of your clients and also staying in tune to what is happening around you. And I will tell you a funny story. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the New York Knicks are NBA champions.
Right.
Last Thursday was the ticker tape parade. Now I'm going to ask you, Charles, did you have a chance to see any of the ticker tape parade?
No, I did not.
Okay. Gotham was very busy last Thursday. Okay?
Okay.
For those of you who are watching, I'm going to give you an example of Marketing 101 at its finest. Okay? During the parade, there was an incident where there was a woman climbing down from a stoplight on the route of the ticker tape parade. Yes.
Wow.
There was another woman sitting on the where the stoplight is.
Okay, on that pole.
On that pole, yes. As the woman was coming down the pole, she tossed the woman sitting on the pole to the ground.
No.
This is literally like Scorpion Mortal Kombat. Get over here. Tossed her off the ground. Now, the woman who tossed her, the woman who got tossed, tried to attack the woman as she was still coming down the pole. She pulled down her pants. The woman started twerking.
Okay.
She then got off. She then came off the pole. I'm not going to describe what happened after. But let me give you Marketing 101. Because I was very intrigued by this. This woman sells Red Rum Punch in New York City.
Okay.
Do you know that because the video of her tossing a woman off of a street pole went viral, her sales have increased? And she was on ESPN this morning marketing her business. I saw a clip of it literally before I logged on.
Wow. Wait.
I know you have questions.
I'm trying to like.
And anybody in the chat, if you saw that video, please co-sign so that Charles doesn't think I'm making this stuff up.
Oh no, I don't believe you making it up because I know how New York gets sometimes. And so I'm just imagining with the Knicks winning a title for the first time since like 72 that of course the city probably was berserk, but that is kind of bizarre. But I'm trying to understand, how does the woman tossing someone gets her business publicity?
Because the amount of times Somebody was recording it. The recording went viral.
Okay.
So it was picked up. It was picked up by TMZ. It was picked up by Shade Room. It was picked up by all of these other social media sites. And she's been going on podcasts talking about what happened. Like, this is like Tyson and Holyfield, where somebody analyzed her tossing somebody from 10 different angles. And
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very careful with how much social media I intake.
Okay.
But this intrigued me. As somebody who thinks business minded, this woman is a genius. Because she is taking advantage of every opportunity, not only to promote what happened, but she's also promoting her punch. She's also now a meme.
Oh my God. Okay. That is a bit much there. So how do you help your clients turn ideas into structured, sustainable companies?
Well, I don't tell them to toss people off of street light poles. Let me be very clear on that. I don't promote violence.
Right.
But what I do promote is a sense of accountability, a sense of understanding, and a point of meeting entrepreneurs where they are. And it goes back to what I was talking about with my time being in higher ed, never being afraid to learn. Because as you're helping other people to jumpstart their businesses with sustainability, what marketing looks like, what raising capital looks like, what bringing clientele looks like, you're also learning different things that can help enhance your that it also enhances me as well. Like when I was in college, one of the first clients I had was somebody who did fashion. Now, look at me. Do I look like I'm fashionably competent? No.
Well, I wouldn't pass judgment because we all have our ways about fashion, so that depends upon the eye. But I understand what you're saying.
But one thing I did was I read Cosmopolitan magazine.
Okay.
Now I'm sorry. I don't read women magazines. But if I want to make money and if I want to understand my client, that actually helped me to understand why my client was making the decisions they were making when it came to setting up the fashion show.
Okay.
At some point, if God gives me a daughter, and if I ever get married, I'm going to need to learn this stuff. I'm going to need to know this stuff. So it wasn't for naught. But just going back to the original question of what I provide as a service, I provide a service of accountability, I provide a service of transparency, and I provide a service of meeting the client where they are so that they can professionally build their businesses with a personal touch from me.
So when people are looking for business and they look up and they find Mella Business Consultants Incorporated, tell those that are listening and watching today, tell them what exactly are they going to be getting and why you are that choice that they should pick.
Well, I come with more than 25 years of experience from being an entrepreneur at such a young age. And I believe, again, in meeting clients exactly where they are. I'm not gonna immediately have the answers, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to leverage, and I'm willing to let God work in helping both of us get to where we need to be.
So, what industries are young Black professionals gravitating towards today?
Well, today, many are interested in STEM. So you're thinking technology, you're thinking sciences, you're thinking about engineering. And that goes back to, my previous point about there being more of a focus on STEM related activities. But you still have those who want to start businesses from scratch. You still have those individuals who want to sell the t-shirts, want to do the car detailing, want to do the fashion shows. They have something that they want to offer, but they need to figure out how to make this thing happen. And coming to Mella is the first stop in helping you to achieve your dreams and what you want to do.
So, what is the most common mistake new business owners make?
Thinking that they know everything and having a microwave mentality.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. How do you teach financial literacy to entrepreneurs?
As long as you follow this one motto, don't spend more than what you have. Meet me there, and then we can have a conversation on what financial literacy looks like for you, what building your clientele looks like for you, what building your capital looks like for you, what keeping expenses low looks like for you, and still being marketable at the same exact time.
So, what role does mentorship play in business success?
Mentorship and trust go hand in hand. Mentorship also goes to not one person saying everything or doing everything. There's a yin yang relationship, very similar to being in the classroom. One person doesn't know everything, and both parties have to be willing to learn. Both parties have to be willing to compromise. Both parties have to maintain respect, and both parties have to have fun and have faith in the process.
With Mella, can you tell us what is your model? What is the model that you guys chose to run your business platform on, and why did you choose that model?
Well, because this business was started on a college campus, we literally took a grassroots approach to business development. And the grassroots approach doesn't look the same because no two businesses, even if you're selling the same product, no two businesses look the same. A casual conversation in the calf, and there were many that we had, turned into great relationships and great friendships.
I like that. What is your proudest moment as CEO of Mella?
Well, the Russell Simmons grant was definitely is up there. And my senior year, we had the ability to help plan part of the Dawn Dance festivities. So, for those of you who have never gone to Wilberforce University, Dawn Dance is basically our spring homecoming. So it's usually a week of different events, a week of different activities happening, and we were able to help plan it. We were able to help fund the events, and we were also able to get exposure for what we were able to do as a business. And hey, it gave me front row tickets. It gave me front row seating at a fashion show. You can't go wrong with that.
So, by the way, do you always attend New York Fashion Week?
I've only been to one New York Fashion Week.
Oh, really? Oh, but so I'm sure that that was like an experience like no other, because I know all the fashion houses are there, and you see clothes like you would not believe.
But again, I'm not very fashion friendly. So it was definitely a bit of a wake up. But I experienced New York Fashion Week as a professional. Once I
Okay.
moved back to New York. It was actually after the first fashion show we financed, but we didn't realize it at the time. As I attended New York Fashion Week, we were asked to fund another fashion show, which we wouldn't find out till months later. But I was able to use some of that experience to help infuse some of my ideas. But I let my partner handle the fashion show. They look, let women do women stuff. I'm like, look, let me just come there and be surprised.
Okay.
Let me make sure this money's going to the right place. We'll be good.
So, how do you balance entrepreneurship with your academic and teaching responsibilities?
Let me be very, very, very intentional when I say this. I think you can also add to that, especially in the last couple years, being a caretaker for a family member.
Okay.
I have become very rigid in a lot of things pertaining to my schedule. I've also been making sure that I make sure I get a lot of rest. So when my gadgets go dark at 11 p.m., so do I. I don't take phone calls after 10:30. I don't answer phone calls before 7 a.m. unless it's an emergency. I set aside time to do my grading. I set aside time for lesson planning. I also have to take into account different meetings, my academic obligations in terms of me being a learned scholar, readings and what have you. Even when I travel, my computer goes with me. I will literally upload I'll download what I have to read and be reading on the plane.
Okay.
You know, even in terms of teaching. In 1 year, I had an opportunity to go to Hawaii, Israel, and Alaska.
Oh, what a trip.
I still taught my classes from all three locations.
Wow. Okay, look at you. Okay, Mr. Tech.
And I told my students, doesn't take you don't get a day off, because they thought I was going to cancel class. I'm like, no.
Look, final question for you. What advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Know what you want to do, but know that it's going to change. Know that there's going to be pivots. Know that you need to navigate accordingly. Make sure you build your village and make sure you build yourself. And the rest will start to come into play.
So, in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement you'd like to leave for our audience? Tell them how to connect with you via your social media. Give them your website information. Tell them something good more about Mella.
Okay. Well, the best piece of advice, trust God. Whatever God you believe in, if you're Christian, if you're SDA, if you're Buddhist, whatever, trust God. Keep him first. Have your faith. Because that, in those dark moments, you need to let go and you need to just let God work. And I have watched him work in different areas of my life when I didn't think there were solutions. Okay? In terms of reaching out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you type in Jamel V. Vanderburg, you can find me there. You could find me on Facebook, Jamel V. Vanderburg. You could find me on Instagram at _Navigator. And listen, it has been a pleasure. If you're interested in reaching out, we can definitely have a conversation. Charles, I thank you again for the invitation, my friend. This has been a very worthwhile 90 minutes, and it's literally gone by in a New York minute.
Yes, sir. But before in closing the show, after I close, do you have a few minutes after I close the show?
Absolutely.
So, for those of you that are watching the show, especially on all of our YouTube channels, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your daily support. And also for those of you that have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channels, as well as enabled all notifications, I want to ask if you would please support us by subscribing, enabling all notifications. You're able to get the shows live when we go live. You're also able to go back and watch all of the great work of all of our great guests that they've left. For all of us to have some moments of inspiration and motivation in contributing, not just to our communities, but building them up. So, in closing, I'd like to read this monologue. Jamel, your journey reminds us that leadership is not defined by titles, it is defined by service. It is defined by the courage to learn, the discipline to grow, and the commitment to uplift to communities that raised us. From the classrooms of Wilberforce to the boardrooms of New York, from tutoring children to shaping public policy, your life reflects a rare blend of intellect, humility, and purpose. You're a reminder that when Black men lead with clarity, compassion, and conviction, entire communities thrive. On behalf of American Black and White, I want to thank you for your scholarship, your service, and your unwavering dedication to building a more just, more informed, and more resilient future. Your story is not just a career, it is a calling, and your legacy is still unfolding. I want to thank you all again. You all have a great night. Please come and see us again tomorrow night as we have another great show for you. And we're signing off